What up guys, back at it again. Another DIY for you. Today we're going to be working on getting a Votex rep lip on the front of this B5 behind me. The steps I'm about to go through will help you navigate fitting your own rep lip, specifically when it's fiberglass, because those tend to have the most distortion coming off the press. But the following concept should help you navigate that and get a little better fitment on your lip. So here we go. So first off, I've got my Votex rep here, and that's a fiberglass set. And over here on the left side of the screen, I've got an OEM lower valence off a front bumper. Setting this guy aside for a minute. Now we're going to pull the lower valence off of the front bumper. I like to just remove the front bumper since it's pretty quick. So if you haven't done that before, there's like a T25 up here. If you slip this guy out, there's a 10 mil here. Same thing on the opposing side here. And then you have a Phillips, and then 3 torque in the middle, Phillips over here. The front bumper is off, and now what we're going to do is separate my valence that's currently on here. You can just use a series of flat heads to pry in here, and then use a little bit of force to push it out from the car. We've got our white fiberglass, and then I've got my spare OEM here on the inside, and you can tell we're starting to run into some fitment issues when we're just doing an initial mock-up here. A good example here is right on the corner where it starts to go into the lower grill inserts on the corner. The internal contour of the fiberglass is going to connect with our OEM here, and so not only will we need to do a little trimming here, but also if you just kind of move over, I'm going to start out by trimming the OEM valence right after the last clip in here. Step 1 complete. We trimmed the edge of the lower valence on both the passenger and driver side right after the last clip in here, and you can see that we're already getting much better fitment. I'm noticing some interference on these middle open-ended vents, and so I am going to do a little trimming here. I'm going to start by opening up just the corners by using this 35 millimeter hole drilling bit. It's also a 1 3/8, and what we'll do is we will just tap in right where we can get a pilot hole going. Hole drilled, you want to have that in first. You don't want to try to attempt to have the bit in an open space in this walk around, so get it just outside onto some solid surface here, and then even though it's going to open it up quite a bit more than what we need laterally, we will at least get rid of the molding here that seems to be running into our fiberglass. Here you can see by opening up that hole, we removed a lot of interference from the OEM to the backside of the fiberglass lip, but we still see some interference on that top portion right here. It's not all the way through, so I'm not going to trim it all the way through, but definitely right here could use some love. And this is really just a guess and check game. Right on the reverse side of this, you can see that I've cleaned it up and use the angle grinder to just angle here to make sure that we have enough clearance. The modified valence is on, and as you can see from our trim job, it's about a 1/2 inch short on the arch contour than the original contour. Anyways, we got the bumper up on a pedestal here so that it'll kind of hang in its natural shape, and then we're going to lay the fiberglass Votex lip over this guy. What I'm really checking for is its interference with the actual bumper skin itself. So we definitely have more work to do. I'm not worried about this gap here. What I am worried about is that misalignment. Have to do is take a little material off the corner there, so that I can get that to slide up about 1/4 of an inch, and then we'll get this whole thing to shift over, and we'll get some good alignment down here on this corner, and then we'll worry about lining it. So over here on the end, we just kind of need to get a little notch out. Flips back on, and that definitely helped. So now what I'm going to do is, there's still a little excess that I need to trim off. I've shown in red, but what I'm going to end up doing is basically taking off about 1/4 of an inch from that red arrow all the way through to that red arrow. That way I can get this to visually line up, and then also that where it kind of rolls in and hits the grill. That's not going to make contact, and that will allow a surface-to-surface contact with the Votex lip against that OEM one. My plan is to cut out a little of this overhang here, and then for the center portion where it dips down for the grills, I've got dots for 5mm all the way across that I'm taking off, and now I'm going to lay down some electrical tape to give myself an actual line. Right, so here's my line I'm going to follow. You can see my dots that I have that guided the electrical tape all the way. Shot of my tracing job with the angle grinder. Not bad. Probably because I did a million hours of sheet metal work in there. Okay, so I think the last thing I need to do is get rid of a few of these nodules. So now that my trimming is all done on the fiberglass rep lip, I've gone ahead and dusted everything off with some compressed air, and then I used some Scotch-Brite and brake clean here to scrub down the mating surfaces of this guy, and now I will go on the interior side of the Votex lip and clean that guy. With everything cleaned up for the mating surfaces, I applied some painter's tape here to the top edge in case I get any of the adhesive on here. I should be able just to peel the tape up, so getting some prep work done there. But here's my mock-up. I've got some clamps that I grabbed from Home Depot. These guys are $1 a piece, so pretty cheap. And what I did when I had the OEM valence on the bumper was I lined up the Votex here, and I made a notation with this centerpiece here, and you can see my 2 lines. That's where I want it to be exactly centered. And when I apply the clips, I work from the middle all the way out. So you want to make sure you've got a good amount, about every 6 to 8 inches on here. And now I'm just going to read up on my adhesive, and we will apply my multiple dirty workbenches here. But here we have everything to adhere both of these guys together. 3M window weld here, super fast urethane 08609. You can pick these up at AutoZone for like $35 a piece. Kind of expensive. I might only need one, but I got 2 just in case, because you don't want to short yourself. The same aisle, there's this caulking gun here. Looks like that might be a part number there for you. 98201. Went to Home Depot, picked up a bunch of these clips. They're $1 a piece for size there. I think they call them 2.5 or 3 inches. You're gonna want these guys, and they also have a rubber protection on them, and then some rubber gloves. All right, cut the V shape in the caulking tip here. I'm gonna puncture this guy with a screw or a nail, and then you pull this guy off just like a soda can lid. Throw it in this guy, and then you start laying your bead. Work as quickly as possible. I think it's 10 or 15 minute working time on this guy, so tube was pretty good. I was able to do 2 full passes all the way across where I'm going to see the most contact up top, and then I also got a 3rd one down here. I probably won't see much more contact down here. And then I also followed this ridge line here, did a little bit underneath here all the way across, and then same here. Cutting that that slit and having the slit kind of where you see all the black goop really helped keep like a nice chisel tip on there, and then you keep it kind of meaty. And then when I apply this guy to the back side, you gotta just go for it. That's why I have my my alignment markings here with this guy here. And then when I apply it, I'm going to squeeze it together, but not just mash all of that adhesive out. I do want it to kind of like squish and fill some gaps, but I also want it to not get so thin that it doesn't create a bond. And obviously with the back side of this rep lip being kind of like uneven, you're going to need to rely on that urethane to kind of fill some of those pockets. So here we go. Apparently I deleted the clip mating the two lips together, but here's a shot of them together with the clamps approximately 6 to 8 inches apart. I'm going to let this cure for 24 hours before I remove those clamps. As you can see, got more projects, but also the lip is a different color here. This is Herculiner bed liner. You can pick it up at AutoZone for about 14 bucks a can. It is significantly different than Plasti-Dip and not as harsh on the texture as the Raptor. This is a pretty good mirror to what the OEM texture is. So you do a few light coats on this guy and you let it dry for about an hour in between. It's going to stay pretty tacky for close to 3 days. The biggest thing with this is just letting it cure all the way before touching it. So the project's done. We've got the lip mounted on the bumper mounted on the car, and I've actually started to work on the Audi all-road fender flares here, which will give a really nice complementary look for the body lines and keep it pretty subtle looking. Altogether, this project took me about 3 hours. Most of that was just guessing check work, making sure that my fitment was good and that I wasn't taking off more material than I needed to. The rest of the cutting and everything like that was only about an hour of the whole process. So things that you absolutely need to have for the project are going to be some of these clamps, obviously the 3M window weld, an angle grinder, and the Dremel tool. Again, the lip came from Evan Ott. You can find him on the Facebook groups. If you want to follow this car, it's on Less Than Average Builds on Instagram, and I am also still active on Votex.com as GetAjetta13. So hopefully I've got the next project coming up. So on to some close-ups.